What's up, guys? Iván Carranza here, and welcome to Coffee with Iván. For today's episode, I had the honor to talk to the one and only Dr. Ringding. Dr. Ringding is a reggae and ska singer and trombone player from Germany. We are actually pretty much neighbors. He lives right across the street here in Münster, Germany, where I live. In this episode, we talked about the Jamaican music scene here in Germany and how it evolved over the years. We also talked about the new album that Dr. Ringding just released. We also talked about how he writes music and how he writes bass lines as well. And also how he got involved in this whole Jamaican music scene. If you want to learn more about what Dr. Ringding does, don't forget to check out his Facebook page called Dr. Ringding and to listen to a new album. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'll see you guys in a bit.
The name is actually an expression in Jamaican patois, and it means big excitement. Like when a Jamaican would say, "What a ring ding!" Like there's big stuff going on. Yeah. There's also a children's game on the street called ring ding. It's a bit like the hopscotch, something like that. I didn't know that at that time, but there was a radio show in the 70s by a Jamaican folk hero named Miss Lou, and she did this radio station show where she talked in Jamaican patois. It was like a cultural thing, especially for children, and to celebrate Jamaican culture and Jamaican language, also called ringding. So there's many things really, but there is an instrumental ska tune from 1964 by a band called Rolando L and the Soul Brothers. Yeah. Rolando L is Roland Alfonso. He was the tenor saxophone player for the Skatalites. And this tune is called Dr. Ringding. And in the beginning, a woman says, "Hello, an emergency case for Dr. Ringding." So I played that with a band. I did a cover program in 1991, 92 maybe. And when I introduced the band at the end of the show, I said, "My name is Dr. Ringding." I looked at the program and I said, "My name is Dr. Ringding." So that stuck with me, and that's how I got my name.
Yeah.
And first I thought that there might be other artists by the same name, but I looked it up and I couldn't find any. So I choose that one, and stuck with me.
Yeah. And how is it that you got into playing Jamaican music? Because you're in Europe, how did that connection begin?
Yeah, in Europe we have some. We've had some connections with Jamaican music as well through England, because all the immigrants that came from the West Indies, from the colonies, from Jamaica and other islands, they were there in the 60s, well, in the 50s already, and they brought their music with them. So there was always a big part of the pop music from England was ska and reggae. And we got that too. So bands like Madness and so on, they would be played on the radio in Germany as well. And when I started making music, it was with a band, and they played ska, but with German lyrics. The name of the band was El Bosso und die Ping Pongs. And I became a member when I was 17. And then I got more into the subject. I listened to more records and all that, and I specialized a little in that kind of music. So that was the British two-tone ska that came before, which was original Jamaican ska from the 60s, and later on rocksteady and dub music and all the different kinds. So this is how I got into the music.
Yeah. And I mean, when you joined that band, you played trombone? Were you playing?
Exactly, yes. Yeah.
And how did you start playing that? Was it like?
Oh, I started in some sort of a brass orchestra, something that we have that in the churches, especially in the Protestant churches. It's a tradition in Germany to have these brass choirs. We call them Posaunenchor, which translates to trombone choir. So that's a tradition. And I started playing in church. This is how I got my first lessons and everything on the trombone. I started with the trumpet, but then half a year later, I switched to the trombone because I got very beautiful trombone lips. And after a few years, it became a little boring. But then I saw this band, and I saw that, wow, you can use the trombone to play other music as well. So I asked the band if I could join them, and they said yes, luckily. And that's how I got into it. And I knew there was jazz music and other music, so I listened to some like the soundtrack of the Glenn Miller Story, for instance, with big band music from the 40s. That was very interesting to me as well. But of course, that takes a lot more training than what I did then, and it was possible to be in a rock and roll surrounding and use my instrument to play that kind of music.
Yeah. So did you have any formal training other than those lessons at church, or did you just learn while playing with different bands?
Well, I had that first. This is how I learned the basics. Later on, my parents said it would be good to have some extra lessons, so I got some private lessons. And later also some training with professional musicians who used to be at the symphonic orchestra here in Münster, in my hometown. Yeah, but I was always very lazy, never wanted to practice, always wanted to play and do a big show and everything. And yeah, I'm still lazy, but now after, 40 years, I know where all the different notes are, but my technique is not the best. And if I compare it to people who do it really, really professionally and who really sit down and practice, and who are not as lazy as I am, of course, I'm not as good as they are. But for the stuff that I do, and I play a lot of my own compositions and all that, there it's sufficient what I do, and I think I can express myself on my instrument in a way that's satisfying for me as well.
Yeah. Speaking about compositions, you gave me your new album right now for those of you watching.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you got it.
Right now it's called Remedy. Came out, I think, last week, right?
Yeah, last weekend. Exactly, yeah.
And can you tell us about this album? Do you write everything yourself, all the arrangements? What is your process of writing music?
The writing process is always different. I don't really write every day. I get inspiration, but I put down my ideas. Sometimes I got ideas for a melody, sometimes for some lyrics, and I write them down, or I put them on my dictaphone. And then when I'm about to record an album or different things, or people ask me if I could do a guest spot with them or write lyrics for them, then I look into my catalog and I see, okay, what ideas have I written down already and what can I work with? And I work from there. There are some cover versions on the album too, but they're in pretty special arrangements that are a little unusual. There's like some pop music or something, but then in a reggae arrangement. I got some ideas, and I talk with other musicians, like the musicians in my band, and see if they come up with some ideas. But I pretty much have a vision of what I want it to be when it's ready. And I think that's also the work of a producer, really, to have a vision and then work with people who are talented, who put in their own input and their talent, and then we make the vision come true. But it's I think the most important thing is to have the vision and to be able to tell other people so that they understand what this vision is and what the goal is. So yeah, on this album, there's some stuff, like some ideas I had for many years, and some were just fresh. And when I knew I want to do a new album, then ideas come in, and I keep to process them, and I start to process them, and and then at the end there's an album. I got even more songs than are on the album, but I also wrote some songs for other bands, and then it didn't happen. So I said, okay, well, I use parts of it for my own project or for whatever. Always depends. Sometimes it's a line, sometimes I hear a sentence, or I listen to a podcast and I say, well, that's a good sentence. maybe this should be in some song lyrics. So I start from there. And then maybe sometimes at the end, the sentence is not in there anymore in the finished lyrics.
Yeah, but it
And
gives
melodies. Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, one time I was at the lights in a town in Poland, and I was going to cross the street, and the street lights they made some the traffic lights they made some sound. It was like I said, wow, stuck in my head, and then I transferred the melody, and it became the intro to another ska instrumental tune.
Yeah,
much different, but that was the inspiration. So I got my phone out, and I make notes, and so this is how stuff can happen.
Yeah. I usually do the same thing with my phone. Like if I have an idea, I just sing it, even if it's off pitch, just to have the idea saved and
exactly
then decipher it later.
Because you forget it if you don't track it, you forget it. So sometimes I'm in the supermarket, like shopping for groceries, and then I'm like some stuff, and people looking at me, and sometimes I sing very soft, and then I listen back, and I can't understand what I sung because it was too soft. I can't hear the pitch really. Yeah. Or sometimes like I'm about to fall asleep, and I get an idea, and I thought, I'll do it in the morning, but forget it. Okay. You will not remember it in the morning. Oh. So, okay, get up again, get your phone, track the stuff, and then fall asleep 20 minutes later or something. But then there's good ideas sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I've lost some great ideas like by not recording them right away. Like, for example, I'm on my bike going to the gym, for example, I get an idea, and I have to sing it constantly until I get somewhere where I can stop and then record it, because otherwise it's gone forever, and I'm going to be pissed the whole day.
Same thing. Yeah. But sometimes, you listen back later and you say, wow, the idea wasn't that great after all. Yeah. That happens too.
Yeah. But when you say that when you write down those ideas, you like physically write them down as notes on paper, or just a recording on the phone and then just figure it out and then get a vision from there?
Mainly that. I'm not a good music writer and reader. I mean, I can do it, but it takes a lot of time because I never really practiced as I should have. So, by the time I read a piece and I try to really play it, by that time I know it by heart already, because it takes me so long to really read it and do that. So I don't write that down. What I do is I have different parts. I come to a rehearsal room or something. I have the bass line in my head. It's all the head arrangements. I have the horn melody in my head. I actually write down the chords. I sit there with a keyboard. I'm not a keyboarder, but I know where everything is. Then later for the recording, I leave it to somebody who can do it properly. But then I can do something, write down the chords. Sometimes the keyboarder comes up with or the pianist comes up with a better idea and says, well, instead of F major 7, shouldn't we do a D minor 6, so-and-so? Well, that sounds good. Okay, let's use that. Or sometimes it's, I like my version better. Yeah. Both things happen. But so, okay, I write down the chords, and I have my bass line ready most of the time.
Yeah, about the bass line.
For reggae, it's really important to have the right bass line already.
Yeah. Do you have it is it like you have it in your head and you can sing it?
Yes.
Okay. And then you show it to the bass player.
Yeah, exactly. Or I play it, I'm in the rehearsal room and maybe I have 4 songs prepared, and then I'm there with my phone. I say, okay, next one goes like this. I hold the microphone next to the telephone, and it goes doom 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 ding ding doom doom ding 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 ding, or stuff like that. And then like this. Okay, and now the chords are this and that, and then I play the trombone, so people know already where it's going. And then I also have ideas for intros and outros most of the time, and some rhythmical arrangements within the song or something. I want a full stop here, and then we go from there. And touches. And sometimes we work on the stuff we played, and I say, well, this takes too long. Like after 2 verses, let's do the bridge after 2 verses and not after 3. Or well, I'll kick this. I wanted to do a solo, but it's too long, or it doesn't make sense. It hinders the flow of the song. Then leave the solo out. But most of the time, I already have in my head, okay, I want a trumpet here, I want a guitar there, and yeah. So head arrangements, I call it. I don't know if that's the right expression, but for me it is.
Back in the day, you could, I don't know, like Mozart times, you couldn't like write down things in your DAW, right? He had all in his head, then put it on paper, handed it out, and that was it.
So, yeah, but that's the difference between a genius and somebody like me.
Now, for people who are not familiar with Jamaican music, reggae, ska, etc., I was, for example, one of those who just listened to a reggae or rock steady tune and thought, okay, that's very simple. That's like nothing really like
sophisticated, like, yeah.
Nothing demanded happen until I started to really play it. And then I noticed all the little nuances that you have to pay attention to make it sound.
Exactly, yeah. All the notes long and the groove doesn't work anymore. And yeah. I see that a lot with different bands who are new. Like sometimes I'm in the studio, I coach other bands, and sometimes they're young bands and they try to sound like this other band or something. And then I'm there and I can tell them, yeah, okay, if you want to sound like that band, you need to play it this way, like the bass has to play short notes and the guitar has to double it. And this, this is how it works. Yeah. So you can't just go and play the notes and say, yeah, reggae is easy. It's like with blues music, there's a restricted chord pattern that you use, but that's not what makes the music. That's the groove and several other things. And like you said, it's only when you get into the subject you find out what the specific details are, and if they don't work, the whole thing doesn't work.
Yeah, one thing that I think is important to pay attention to, for example, music from South America or the Caribbean, is that a lot of that music was made to dance.
Exactly, yeah.
You have to pay attention to it and honor that aspect of the music. It's not to sit there with your arms crossed and listen to it, It has to feel good.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And if little elements don't work, then the whole thing doesn't work.
Yeah,
that's exactly it. And some people have that criticism. They say, yeah, it's too simple. Reggae music is only 2 chords or something. Okay, simple. If you look at the harmonic structure,
yeah.
Of course it's bebop, but bebop is not made to dance. It's different. And then what's interesting is that there are bands who play jazz, ska, and jazz reggae, ska jazz, all that, and they have arrangement, and it's incredible what they're doing. Yeah. So you can dance and listen at the same time. And there's some stuff I really appreciate with some Latin American music. When I listen to some son or salsa stuff, it's really sophisticated horn arrangements and the harmonic structure as well, very often, and stuff that happens. I was in Mexico and. I was there there was a dance evening in a big hall. It was called, I think it was Los Angeles Club, something. It was a Tuesday night, and old people would come and dance to real dance orchestras.
Yeah.
Playing live. And I sat there and I was crying. It was so good. I listened to it and I thought, wow, it's so sophisticated. And people just go there and they dance and they appreciate it. They would applaud in between the songs. Yeah. Because something happened that I didn't even realize it happened. Maybe the rhythm changed a little or something. And to them, to the people who are accustomed to listening to this music, they realize it and say, oh, that was nice. So we applaud, but we keep dancing. And that was beautiful. Yeah. And there you could see that dance music doesn't have to be simple, but it can be. And that's fine too. And sometimes it's also nice to just listen to music. That's what I did. I didn't dance because I didn't know the dance moves, and I don't think that they would have, I don't know, I wouldn't have fit in between all the pachucos and all that to do my, don't know, German, my German dance moves.
Yeah.
That are pretty sexy though, by the way, but not very Mexican.
I know what you mean about the sophisticated chord structures, and that is something that I started noticing like lately. After when I was growing up, I grew up in Peru, in South America. For you guys listening, and I would look at like cumbia or salsa, and I was like, that's just like, I don't know, to like for the masses, but in a bad way, like that's
Yeah.
bad music for the masses. But I mean, I was so wrong about that thing, because some cumbia arrangements, first of all, the bass lines are amazing, even though they're pretty simple. To make them feel good, that is tricky as hell. And there are some really arrangements, especially for the full piece band. 2 keyboards, horn section, drums, percussion, singers.
Yeah.
Also dancers sometimes. And the same thing for salsa. They use even very, sophisticated chords, 7 chords, dominant chords, and to fit all that into dance music and still make it feel good. That's really a challenge.
Yeah, I think the same. And to me, it was I came to that point where I realized that ska or reggae is just another way of arranging your jazz tune for the jazz people. When they did the bossa nova stuff, it was just play any chord and put it to a bossa nova rhythm, and it'll work somehow. I mean, you got to be clever for some chord changes to really make it fit, but it's possible. So why, instead of using a rumba or bossa nova, why not use a ska rhythm or whatever? And it works. So you just know you have to know the specifics of the different styles and apply them. But it's also easy to just, you can play a rumba with musicians who are not super sophisticated, and it works, and it's for dancing, and it's good, and it's nice.
Yeah, definitely.
There's a lot of different levels in there if you talk about musical sophistication. But in the first place, it's dance music. So if you enjoy it, if you can dance, then it's fine. And what you said, like it's music for the masses and it's cheap stuff, might be okay. There's like the stuff we have in Germany, for instance, Schlager music. It's not my favorite type of music. I wouldn't do it myself. I also think, sometimes it's too simple, also from the lyrics. But then there are some specific performers where I say, wow, that's a good singer. She can sing. She does this and that. Or he has very good lyrics, although the style is a bit too cheesy for me. Or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I can appreciate it. So I think it always comes down to who puts how much effort into it and what you enjoy yourself. It's a thing of personal taste. And then if you can go beyond your taste and appreciate, okay, they did a good arrangement. There are good players in the band. They didn't produce this cheaply, but they put a lot of their heart into it. That's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't want to listen, but
now speaking about the ska and reggae scene, and also like how you start to play the genre, I noticed that here in Germany and overall in Europe, there are quite a few very big reggae festivals. And I mean, like big names from Jamaica come here to play. I'm sure you have worked with a couple of those people. What can you tell us about that?
Well, there are in Germany. There are a few big ones. There is the Summer Jam, of course, that is close to Cologne, and then there's the Reggae Jam, which is in Bersenbrück. It's a little more up north, and then there's one in the south of Germany, Chiemsee Reggae Festival. You got all the big names there. And for ska, same thing. There was the Potsdam Ska Fest years ago, but now there's this is Ska Festival, and there's the Dynamite Ska Festival, which is in Leipzig, and there you get the veterans. It's popular, and it changed from being some hippie music in the 70s. People who knew Bob Marley, and they like to smoke marijuana, and they go there and enjoy that, and it's fine. But the whole thing changed in the late 90s. It became a bigger part of pop music in Germany, also from German performers, people like Gentleman, for instance, who was not that sunshine reggae, ganja mood, but it was dancehall and dancehall reggae. And then later we got some German performers like D-Flame, and Seed came up, the band Seed, and Tolga was on the charts, and Jan Delay, who was a rapper first, came out with a reggae album with German lyrics. That was great. So the whole thing changed. It became cool, and all the young people who used to listen to hip hop a lot in Germany, they also listen to reggae now, and they also came to these festivals. So you get a big mixture of the old hippie guys, then musicians like it anyway, the hip hop kids, and now everything's mixed. After 20 years, everything's mixed, and the children of each come there too, and it's fine. It's a big family meeting. I would say that in Germany, the modern acts are more popular, while in France you have the big festivals. There you will still find the big roots reggae artists, like more the singers from the 70s, the bands like Gladiators and Culture and Burning Spear and Alpha Blondy, who's from Africa, Ivory Coast. And these acts, they are more popular in France, I would say. But still on the Reggae Jam Festival, we have a lot of a great mixture of the new modern bands, reggae bands that emerged from Jamaica, but also the artists who do dancehall and the new roots style, but then also the guys from the 70s, they had the Rockers showcase last year from the Rockers movie from the 70s, which is all about roots reggae music. And people show respect to these people. And I was pretty lucky. I think it was 3 years ago, Big Youth was playing on the Reggae Jam in Bersenbrück, and they asked me if I could join the band, play the trombone, and of course I could, because I know the stuff. And so I was there. I was standing like 2 meters away from Big Youth, and he was doing his style, and I was there. I was smiling for 1 hour, playing along with the legend. That was a lot of fun, and it's very satisfying to meet your idols.
Yeah,
and play music.
Yeah. For example, when you get a call like that to play at a festival, do you show up and you have to learn the tunes already? Is there a rehearsal, or how does this go usually?
Oh, with the veterans, with these people, when you're in a backing band, it depends. Like some have their program and they have their own backing bands, but sometimes there's a backing band who will back 8 artists or 10 artists. There's a band called House of Rhythm from Austria. They are specialized in that. I think they are the fixed band of Anthony B, but they can back everybody, like from 70s artists or 90s dancehall artists or current ones. And most of the time they give them the rhythms, because in Jamaican music culture, it's the usual thing is there's a producer, he makes a rhythm, which is a music track, and then he asks 10 or 20 or 50 different artists to make their version on that track, and then he ends up with 50 versions of one music track, but 50 different songs. So these rhythms become very popular, and I could work with a band I've never worked with. If they're good, they know the rhythms, and I say, okay, I would like to do a half-hour set. Please do real rock rhythm, answer rhythm, heavenless, Kuchi rhythm. Then we go to Punani, and then we do this and that, and then we got half an hour. And they know what it is. They usually know the key, but I could specify to say, okay, play Punani in G, and not in F or whatever, But some of them, like if you say real rock, it's clear it's B flat.
Yeah.
If you say Kuchi rhythm, it's clear it's in C major. These things. So that's pretty easy. And then the rest is you have to read the performer when you're in the band. You see what he wants to do, so they can do some arrangements on the where he says, okay, now only the bass, now only the drums, now offbeats get out and come back in, or they do a dubwise style while he's singing or doing his chatting or whatever. And so that's pretty easy. So there's a big variety of like bands who really rehearsed it, who have all the arrangements down, but a lot of stuff just works like as if there was a DJ who's playing the rhythm from a record. But in this case, the record is a band of 6 people.
Yeah.
And they can do it. And he says, okay, the horns, and now the guitar, and now take it down, and now do a 1 drop, and now mix me. And then they do something a DJ would do. The band would go, you know, and this is something the DJ did with his fader.
Yeah.
And bands started imitating the DJ, and this means everybody can work with everybody, which is pretty good.
That's what I was gonna say. Like when you have a live performance, usually at a festival, for example, it's maybe never the same, like 2 times, because the artist is improvising and reading the audience and giving cues for the rest of the band, and they have to react. So you're never gonna see probably the same performance twice, just like in jazz, for example.
Yes, and that's a good thing, I think.
Yeah,
you know, you make this stuff up, and there's something really interesting that Rico Rodriguez, trombone player in reggae music, he started in the ska days, and then he was a big reggae person. He played, he had his own albums, but he played with different bands. He also was in the Specials, the ska band from England. He said, yeah, the reggae is pretty simple. Like the structure is simple, but that is where the creativity comes in and where it has to come in to keep it interesting. That way you can, if you like the music, you can play a track of 8 minutes. It's the same 2 chords for 8 minutes, and it's never boring because creativity comes in, you know? Don't change the bass line, don't change the pattern, but you can change stuff. You can do your solos, you can do this, you can do that. And that's the variation and the creativity. And then if the artist is good and if the band is good, it will never be boring.
Yeah.
Of course, if you play a track for 8 minutes, it can become boring. And sometimes it happens.
Yeah.
But, you know, people who play at these reggae festivals, they know what they're doing. So they will never be boring.
Yeah, definitely. I think that like what you mentioned about the for example, keeping the same 2 chords or the same bass line, when you give yourself kind of like restrictions on a composition level, you say, okay, I'm going to stick to these 2 chords. Then you have to get creative because you can't break apart from that. So you're going to like forcing or pushing that creativity.
Exactly, yeah. You use that restricted pattern that you have, and then you work within that. So that could be the soloist who uses different scales and does different stuff. And, you know, if they're playing a B flat major, A flat major, like for 8 minutes, and you just go and play the B flat pentatonic on it, it will be boring after, I don't know, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. So if you're creative there and can do something or work with sounds or something, also same for the singer. You know, you sing different styles. I could do a tune where I sing and then I rap or do this toasting style. And go back and forth and change. You know, if it's just one singer, maybe you got 3 singers. So one sings, one raps, and the other one does both or dances at the same time or whatever. And you get the variety from there. It's like a DJ who has the same rhythm maybe and then mixes together different artists who use the same rhythm. And it becomes interesting, or it doesn't become boring.
Yeah, for those who are listening, how would you explain like toasting, rapping, those kind of names?
Yeah, I said rap. Jamaicans wouldn't use rap as a word for it. It's this stuff where you do some rhythmical rapping on a beat, but it has defined pitch, like opposed to rap, where you go like, listen, everybody, hope you're doing okay, make the name, stuff like that. But in this toasting style is more like, say daddy ringing in my band German, and first in my back up with the Jamaican, and then in my back up with the American, and then in New York when me come rum up sessions, I me a rum it in the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, and Manhattan, stuff like that. So that is the toasting style, the chatting, toasting, or DJ style. It's called DJ style also because the performers were called DJs, while the person who is the DJ is called the selector or the operator. So it's all a bit mixed up. But it came from the tradition that the DJ in the original days, he put on the record and then he grabbed the microphone and did a few lines. And then from there, it developed that he would do more lines, and it rhymes and more and more and more. And all of a sudden, he's the person who is actually the singer, the performer, still called DJ, while the person who operates the turntable is the operator or the selector, the one who selects the record to use. So that's toasting, but toasting is more the old school style. If you have new artists who do that dancehall style, you wouldn't call them toaster anymore. It's more like the old people like Josie Wales and Brigadier Jerry and even the earlier ones like U-Roy and I-Roy and Dennis Al Capone and these people who started to create the style in the late 60s.
And all these styles like reggae, rocksteady, especially dancehall, those things happened like at parties, right? Where people would just put on a record, the song, and just try to, sing for the crowd and make them dance.
Yes. So it starts with some DJ stuff like, come in the door, come on the dance floor, shake your body now, all right, stuff like this. That's all. And then, but shake your body all night long. While Papa Ring Ding sing this song. Say, listen to my words and you can't go wrong. We're gonna have a party, me say all night long. So I'm freestyling right now, but this is how it happens. And then from there it develops. And of course, people would enjoy it more than just somebody playing the record and then playing the next record and playing the next, because it's more personal. Yeah. And this person could also react to stuff that's happening, like, look at the man standing there at the bar. Look at the man who was smoking a cigar or whatever, like. And then you develop songs from that. Yeah. But it really comes from the dance hall culture. Is the sound system culture is really where it happens, where people come to dance, to enjoy themselves, and that's it.
Yeah. How do you see the development of the music since from where you started playing it to where it is today?
Well, over 30 years have passed now. I've listened to more stuff, so I can't compare. The interesting thing is that from every era in music up to this day, there are always people who play stuff from the different eras. Not only in reggae, but also in jazz. You have people who play swing from the 50s and bands who play modern jazz, or what was called modern jazz in the 70s, and experimental stuff and free jazz and bebop and fusion. You still have bands today who play fusion style that was played in the 80s. Yeah. So it's interesting that you can always get your stuff that you like from the different eras and mix it for yourself and fix it for yourself. Mm-hmm. So that's a good thing. If there's a ska band now, or like for our new album, there's one tune that is more like instrumental ska, as it would have been played in the early 60s. Mm-hmm. And then there's a song called Tucci, instrumental tune called Tucci. But then there's a ska tune on there called Fun that is totally like the two-tone ska from the 80s. Also with some pop elements from the 80s. We use some synthesizer stuff in there to make it sound a bit like stuff that Madness would have done, or some of the pop bands from the 80s. Yeah. So the thing is that there's a big pool and you can fish in the pool and you can take what you like and combine it and recombine it. And that's what I like about different bands from different countries. Like, from Latin America, there are so many bands who mix the ska or the reggae with salsa or cumbia or other traditional stuff they have, or like from the Balkan, some bands who do gypsy Balkan ska, or sometimes like there's a band called Gypsy Ska Orchestra, but they're from Venezuela. So they mix everything, and it's great. It's great music, and it's music where you can dance to it, but you can also listen and enjoy what they do because their arrangements are fantastic. It's amazing, and it's a lot of fun because it's everything. It's entertaining and it's sophisticated and very raw at the same time. They manage that. So, but it's funny to have a band from Caracas playing Balkan music and mix it with ska.
Yeah, they're like completely different corners of the earth.
Yes. Well, Venezuela is the Caribbean already, so but still, it's not that traditional music in the first place.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's amazing to see that. So how did it change? Production got different. The dancehall has developed in a way, of course, like with pop music, with hip hop, and then later with electronic music also. I don't enjoy it as much anymore, like the current dancehall style. I prefer the dancehall style from late 70s, 80s, 90s. That's when I really got into it, the early 90s. And then the people who still play the old style, I like, but like the very modern style, it doesn't really touch me. It's production-wise, it's probably pretty good, but doesn't make me want to move or something. It's
about the production. That's something that really, to me, was very interesting when I was kind of researching about reggae and rocksteady, and Studio One, all those ideas that they have to mix the music and to make it feel huge and to sound big. Because back in the day, like people, consumer equipment, radios at home, they couldn't really put out a lot of bass, for example. Still, the bass sounds amazingly huge in all recordings. It was played also on like the dance halls, for the parties. Nowadays, what I hear in production, bass is definitely mixed differently than before. It's like way more deeper. It doesn't sound like as not so audible. It's more like a lot of push compared to more the melody. That's what I perceive, at least. What thoughts on the production aspect of it?
Well, yeah, you have different possibilities now, just like you said. And if you say, okay, we need this to be like we put a sub bass under the bass and or things like that. Yeah, it's good if you have the possibilities and if you can work with them, it's a great thing. But I think the real art happened in the 50s and 60s when the producers knew exactly where to place the microphones in the room to get the best sound, like 1 meter from the piano, but only 1.5 from the double bass. And I mean, that's amazing. The Blue Note, the jazz Blue Note recordings were in clubs and in studios. They didn't put in like a lot of effects and all that. It's just the placement of the microphones to catch the right frequencies. Then, of course, mix it accordingly. And but if you take into consideration that all that has been played live in the studio, and it sounds so good, and now, like when you're not happy with something, you re-record the track, or you add another one, or like you use an effect where you can like put an octave under the bass drum, and yeah. But I don't like. I'm not a real technician. I don't know all these things. When I'm in the studio and something is mixed, I can say, okay, can we try this and that? And then the engineer most of the time understands what I'm trying to say, and then they do it. And many times it works out well, but sometimes also you find that's not really it. But production-wise, it depends on what you want, really. Like for horns, I like real natural horns, but you heard so many plastic horns from keyboards in reggae music and all that. Sometimes you say, I think here it's better to have fake plastic horns because that's the style.
Yeah.
It's this acoustic, you're used to listening to that, and that's what makes the style. So if you listen to some, let's say some cumbia from Argentina, and you have, it wouldn't be nice if it was a clarinet or saxophone, because it has to be the shitty sound from that keyboard.
Has your keyboard.
It sounds authentic, and then sometimes it's good to have a bad sound.
Yeah, for sure. Like those keyboard pads or lead sounds on cumbia records, like if you don't have those, it doesn't sound authentic, and they're like the most disgusting sounds, but at the same time they're beautifully sounding when they're in the context.
Yeah, and even if you have, like, if you play with a band and then you play this style and you have a 4-piece horn section, okay, let them go grab a drink or have a smoke or whatever. Now the keyboard is doing
yeah,
and because it's better.
Yeah.
Sometimes the bad stuff is better. And it was a little strange when I listened first to this stuff, like the dancehall style from, let's say, 1987, the King Jammy's productions. That's all the 808 rhythm machine. And of course, it's not a real drummer. At that time I said, but it's not a real drummer. It's not so good. But then I listened to 100 tracks or 500 tracks and I said, yeah, well, that's the way it's done, and that's the way it's supposed to sound. And then the only keyboard in all the reggae bands was the M1, the Korg M1, and that's it. But then you went to 50 shows, and you say, that's how it's supposed to sound, really.
Yeah.
And it's good. And then I made one album with a great producer from Poland. His name is Dread Squad. He's in Łódź. He does several productions, like modern style and some old school stuff. And we got this album, and because we both loved this style from 87 and into the 90s so much, we made an album, and he produced it just like it would have been done in the late 80s, early 90s. And also me, my performance, my songs, my lyrics, they all fit in that style. The album is called Dig It All, like dig it, I dig it all, and then like digital. So that's the play on words in there already. And he used the original, the Casio, this little crazy keyboard and the Roland 808 and because we love the sound. That's why we made it. So there's no natural instrument in there. It's only the voice, and then everything else is computer stuff and program stuff. And I love the album because it's how it has to be.
Yeah. Did you record it on tape?
No.
No.
No. Not anymore. I mean, of course, like in the 80s and 90s a lot, but after that it's all hard disk.
Yeah. Okay. About what you mentioned, that, for example, now it's easy to delete a performance and re-record it again. Do you feel that having that ability has somehow like decreased the quality of the performers, or does that hurt the musicians being able to just delete and re-record and not have to focus as much? I want to hear your opinion.
If that hurts them, I mean, for somebody like me who cannot play everything like the first time right, it's pretty good because I have ideas, but I lack the technique sometimes. Or sometimes I make a mistake, and like Bob Ross says, there are no mistakes, there are only happy accidents. So sometimes in a solo, I play something and I want to hit a note, but I do something wrong and I hit a different note. And I realize that note is better than the one I wanted to play.
Yeah.
That happened. Then I say, okay, let's go back 2 bars and I do that part again, but with that note, and then change it accordingly. And so for me, it's better. I can be more creative with this. If I do a solo and I want it to be right, then I would play it safe and I wouldn't experiment too much. And then it becomes a little too boring for myself and for others probably too. But being able to change, okay, I like this. In bars 7 and 8, not so good. Let me, exchange a part here. So for me, it's good. And yes, I think performers don't have to be as good as they used to have to in older days. That's true. But if it comes to rhythm section, they can really do a lot. Of course, you can drop keyboard here and a bass there, but it has to groove already and has to work already. So they have to be on a certain level already where it works and where it's good. Yeah. So I would say I have good ideas. I lack the technique sometimes, and if it's something I can play, I ask somebody who can do it properly.
Yeah. I asked
with other things, I will try until it gets right, because at the end, or in the end, I want to make a statement, a musical statement, and the statement is not look how well I did it, but look how beautiful music can sound.
Yeah.
So that's probably it.
For sure. I asked because I remember watching a documentary. I don't remember the name, but it was about the recording process of the last 40, 50 years, and some great producers were, mentioned, back in the day, like performers came in, did a take, and it was like the take. We take number 2. That was the best one. And nowadays you can come unprepared, quote unquote, to the studio because you can punch in so many times as you want to get it right.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think there's 2 things. Like either the whole thing is programmed anyway, and then you can play around as much as you like to. But if we work like we've done with this album now, with the current album, we go into the studio with a basic band with a rhythm section. So we have the drums and the bass and the guitar and the keyboard. They play at the same time and play the whole song.
Yeah.
And then if we're not happy, we do another take, and if we're not happy, we do another take, and then we pick the best one and work from there. So we have to be happy with the basics already, and then you can still exchange a bit. Like say, the bassist says, I hit a wrong note, or like I mix up the structure or whatever, and then you can fix it. But the drums are already good, and the groove is already there, and then that's good. You work from that. So I think it's important. If you really play band music, it's important that the band plays together. And then afterwards, if you add a horn section and then, the trumpet player plays another trumpet on top of it and all that, that's all possible. It's all fine. Yeah. And of course, it's the more people there are, the more mistakes will happen. So then it's easier to record in sections. And if somebody does a solo, he does it as long as he's until he's happy, and or exchange stuff. And
where did you guys record the album? Because I mean, if the band is playing at the same time, you probably have to go to a studio, right?
Yeah, we went to a studio close to Münster, where we are. I think is it Ostbevern, or what is it called? It's a Fox Music Studio. Wolfgang Brammertz is the sound engineer. He's also a producer and an instrumentalist. We did that there, and then the overdubs happened in different studios. We got a horn section in different studios, like in Münster, and some stuff is home recorded as well. Like when the guitarist did his overdubs, he did that at home. Yeah, played to the tracks, and my vocals I did in 2 different studios. One was home recording, the other one was a studio where we also recorded percussion. and marimba. There's a marimba on one thing. You can't do that at home really because it's a large instrument. So we did that in the studio as well. And there I sang a few tunes and then sing some other ones, and then But so a lot of stuff is home recorded or in different series, but the basic tracks were all done in one studio of all 14 songs.
Yeah, it's a long album. I mean, it's 17.
Yeah, 14 songs, and then there's 3 bonus tracks where we did other versions of songs that are on the album. Like there's one song, a Joni Mitchell tune, Both Sides Now, that we did in a reggae arrangement. And there I did different vocals. I have another one where there's a great singer from Switzerland who sings in German. So we did a German version of that song. It's called Beide Seiten. And then I did a French version too. Then there's a tune where we do some cumbia reggae style. It's a song called Maria Angelina. And then we did a Spanish version too. And you helped in the studio.
Actually, as official translator.
Yeah, you helped me on somebody translated the lyrics, and then you helped coach me in the studio because I needed a native speaker to make sure that I pronounce everything right. Yeah. And some friends from Spain said it doesn't sound German, so that's a big achievement. It's actually funny. They said, oh yeah, when you sing it sounds good, it sounds Spanish, but it's like every sentence sounds like it's from a different part from Spain. So that's good enough. As long as I don't say it sounds German.
Yeah.
That's already a nice compliment. So thanks to you as well.
Happy to help. You mentioned about the coaching. You mentioned you also do work as a coach and also producer. Who do you work with, for example?
Oh, that's more like most of it is in the ska and reggae field. Young ska bands, or older ones too. Like I work with bands called Scrapey and Yellow Cap and what else? Mason's Arms. Bands like that, and then I can tell them a bit about the groove, what they have to do, but my specialty is really to coach the singer, to see like how they can work. Sometimes I help with the lyrics when they wrote lyrics, but they don't really fit a rhythmical pattern or something, and I can help change it around a bit. Or then with the horns also, like where you say, well, if you do this differently, or maybe it's nicer to play in harmony here and in unison in the other part. So I can help that to make it sound more authentic, maybe, or better.
Yeah.
And also for the mixing then later for the album when they say, they ask me because they like the productions that I do for myself, so they want me to apply these things for their recordings. And for me as a producer or a coach, it's important to see what does the band want to do, do they want to achieve, and how can they get there with what they are able to do. Mm-hmm. The singer says, I want to sound like, I don't know, Freddie Mercury. I can probably say it's not going to work. But if they say, I want this more in a bluesy style or this and that, then we can work on phrasing and on timing and also on accent stuff, like to me it's important to sound good, that it's that it doesn't become ridiculous. If somebody has an accent that is too strong, slight accent sounds sexy, strong accent most of the time doesn't sound sexy. So we work on that too.
Yeah. You mentioned you started playing trombone. How did you start, or when did you start singing? Because you do both things in your band.
Oh, we always sang in the family, and but really to sing with a band was a little later. When I started with this band, El Bosoni Ping Pongs, I did some backup vocals and did, I think, one tune where I sang. So I didn't even sing solo there. No, I didn't do that. But then I sang in a real choir, where we did classical music, like we did the Christmas oratorio from Bach and other great things, like from Baroque and up to Romanticism. I think when I formed my own band, when I formed Dr. Ringling and the Senior All Stars, that was the band. There, I really started to become the front singer.
Yeah.
And I tried out a lot of stuff. But other than that, we always sang, in the family, in the car, long drive to. I'm half French, so we went to France, to the house where my mother was born, and then in the car, 3 children, my father, my mother, singing, and as we got older and knew more stuff, we would sing 4-piece harmony hymns and stuff like that in the car. It was a lot of fun. So we always sang in the family.
Yeah, cool. That's really nice.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. Had a question right now. Totally forgot it. It slipped my mind. Oh yeah, I don't remember. You play trombone and sing. Do you only have one microphone, or how does that work live?
No, I use 2 microphones. I sing into a regular singing microphone, and then most of the time I used to play in a separate one. Because it's a big sound difference. Of course, the trombone is much louder than the voice, so you would have to have the right distance from the microphone, and that's not fun. And sometimes you have to play and then sing at the same, maybe not at the same time, but maybe in a split second you go, and I know
Yeah.
I use a clip mic now. I have a clip mic with a transmitter. So that makes it easy. So I can really move around, and if I have a wireless singing microphone, I can really walk around and sing and play at the same time. I can hold the microphone and play the trombone at the same time, and it's easy.
Yeah, with the freedom there.
But for singing, I'm not using any sophisticated stuff really. It's like most of the time it's really the classic Shure SM58 microphone. Also for the wireless systems, that works fine all the time.
Yeah. Do you sing with in-ear monitors, or is it mostly wedge monitors?
It depends on the band that I'm with. Like I played with a band called the Busters for 7 years. There we had in-ear monitoring, 11 people on stage. That makes a lot of sense. So you don't have all the feedbacks and all that. It makes it much easier for the person at the mixing desk, and also for oneself. If you got it really in your ear, then you don't get exhausted that much, because if the sound is wrong, like you're not loud enough. I tend, and I know this from many other singers, the mistake they tend to do is they sing louder so they can hear themselves better because they're not loud enough. That means they're too exhausted. So if you have 3 shows in a row or 10 shows in a row and your voice is hurting after the 3rd show, that's a really bad thing. And with the in-ears, that doesn't happen, because you can have yourself as loud as you want to, as you need it, and you're always comfortable.
Yeah.
Of course, you got to adjust it accordingly to your needs. That's a good thing. And then like some other stuff, like last year, I played at the like a really big show. That was the MTV Unplugged concert of Santiano. I was in one of the 3 background singers. There, everybody works with in-ear, but we got an orchestra on stage, and like the band already were, I don't know, 10 people.
Yeah.
Then we have 5 in the front, 5 singers, or 4 at that show. And the background singers, and then an orchestra, really with timpani and with trombones and strings and a harp, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
But if somebody has to mix 60 people, 70 people, makes a lot of sense to have the in-ear monitoring.
Yeah, definitely.
But then if it's a club, if it's a jazz club, a blues club or something, then I don't use it. And the bad thing about in-ear is you don't get a lot of the atmosphere that is outside of the whole thing, like the reactions from the public, or from your fellow musicians. You can't react to that, and that's something I like really. So it's good and it's bad. But if you only sit in the back and you're one of the backup singers, it's fine, you know. As a front person, it's more difficult, I think.
Yeah. I was once kind of surprised when I was on I think texting someone on Instagram from Peru, and they knew you, and I was like, how do you know like Richie?
Of course, ska band.
Doctor, yeah.
Vieja Esquina.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Good band, very good band.
I was like, what? Like, how did this happen? In how many countries have you played or have worked with?
I think I've counted it, but I forgot how many they were. Many, like all over Europe.
Yeah.
And in Latin America, I was in Mexico and Venezuela and Colombia. And in Asia, I played in Asian part of Russia. I was in Korea twice. Also played with a band from there called Kingston Rudy Ska. We also recorded a mini album called Ska and Seoul. So Seoul like the capital of Korea, and soul like soul music. Yeah. Africa, I was in Kenya and Uganda. And then United States and Canada. Well, there's a lot of places really.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I lost count. Somehow I could count. I don't know. 30.
What was with your band or with which artist?
Oh, it depends. Like some are with a band. Some is also do dancehall shows where I really only play with a DJ, or why I DJ myself and I perform to the rhythms, to the music tracks. And then I also work with the backing bands. Like when I'm in Mexico, there's a band from Monterrey. They're called Capital Sound. They have backed me on several tours in Mexico already. And in Venezuela, I played with a band from Barquisimeto, Mr. Swing and the Bongo Clan. So they backed me in Caracas and Barquisimeto. And when I'm in Poland, I play with the Bartenders, and especially when I'm in Spain, you know, I'm in Catalonia very much, and there's a band from Barcelona called the Freedom Street Band, used to be called the Rankin Soldiers. So I've been playing with them for 20 years now. Wow. Also, they know my program, and we do stuff together. So that happens, but then also I'm on tour with my own band. So with that band, I've played in Russia and in France and Netherlands, Belgium, Italy. Yeah. So it depends, and they know my program. And then interesting thing is some bands play better the modern dancehall style, others more the traditional. Some can play the ska very well, others can't. So the program changes also. When they say we want a 1 hour program for a club show or a festival, I say, okay, it's this band. Okay, here we can play shuffle ska better than with a band from the other country. Yeah. So I adjust the program accordingly. And that's a lot of fun too. And then the arrangements are different also. So because the lineup is different. Some have a big horn section, others don't. And so we can work on different stuff. That's nice.
Yeah. What would be your recommendation for somebody who wants to start listening to Jamaican music? What are some of your iconic albums that one should definitely check out?
I'm sorry, the audio cut out. Can you repeat the question, please?
Which albums would you recommend to someone who wants to start listening to Jamaican music? What are some of the iconic albums that one should definitely check out?
All of my albums, of course. And oh yeah, it really depends on the style you want to get into. Of course, when you want to go with the early ska, get something from the Scatterlights from Studio One. Yeah, they are basically the people who invented the music. Also from the early 60s, there was a dance band who, at that time when ska was big, they played that kind of dance music. That's Byron Lee and the Dragonaires, also from Jamaica. Then should get into some of the like the early singer stuff. Like my favorite singers from the old days are Desmond Dekker, and Toots Hibbert, Toots and the Maytals. He's still around. When it comes to the dancehall stuff, like the early one, I'd say it's people like Yellowman, Josie Wales, these people. Then late 80s stuff, Admiral Bailey, Chaka Demus. Then into the 90s, Cutty Ranks is my favorite. There's too many, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like from Britain came a lot of stuff, like people like Maccabee, who did the dancehall style, this rootsy reggae, ragamuffin style. Then, of course, Tipper Irie. He's also guest singer on one of our tracks on the new album.
Yeah.
We did a track called Unity. So I was very happy to have him on the album as well. And I did a few tours with him as well. And like 12 years ago, we were in California together, and in Kenya 10 years ago, and shared the stage. So that was a great pleasure and a great honor. And now we did a tune together called Unity. So it's all about this good feeling about unity. What else would I recommend? Of course, I mean the classics: Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, Bunny Wailer.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a lot to pick from.
Yeah,
really.
I think that's
And then the modern ska bands. There are so many good modern ska bands.
Yeah, I think that already gives some people like ideas to check out, because I know like
some names. Yeah.
Because when I started, I remember
what you can do, something that's I made a playlist, a reggae playlist on Spotify called DJ Richie's Reggae Summer.
Okay.
So check that one out. These are all songs that I like, recordings that I like, and that have influenced me as well, as in reggae. And then for ska, I made a playlist also on Spotify called Dr. Ringling Selects The Perfect Ska Party. So you can check that one out. That's also like my favorite ska tunes from two-tone, current stuff, and also from the 60s, with singers like Derek Morgan and Lord Creator and Desmond Dekker and Elton Ellis and these people. So that's like 4 hours of music each, and definitely check it out. And I'll make new ones, and I also update the lists like every few weeks.
Yeah, cool. There's gonna be links on the YouTube version of this.
Okay, yeah, in the description. Nice, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Where can people find you online?
I use Facebook most. That's Ringding Official on Facebook. So go there and follow and like and subscribe and everything. I got my channel on YouTube, which is also in the description, where I put up my my videos and some other funny stuff, like some interviews and other fun stuff, hopefully fun. Instagram, Twitter, that's the ones I use. And then all the other stuff, I might have accounts, but I don't really work them. So if you want to get in touch and if you want to follow, that will be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and then YouTube.
Cool.
And Spotify. Go and follow the Spotify
playlist. Definitely.
Profile, and also check out the playlist I put up there, because it's stuff that I like and that other people might like too. Yeah. And if they listen to my favorite music, they may understand me a little better.
Maybe. Also, don't forget to check out the new album, guys. That's The Remedy by Dr. Ringding. Great song. One of my favorites, the title track, The Remedy, and also More Reggae. Those two I really like.
Yeah.
Check it out. Thank you, Richie, Dr. Ringding, for being here. I'll see you guys on the next one.
All right. It's been a pleasure. Stay safe.
I hope you guys enjoyed listening to the conversation I had with Dr. Ringding and could learn something from it, especially if you were not that familiar with Jamaican music like reggae, ska, dancehall, etc. Don't forget to check out Dr. Ringding on Facebook and also to listen to his new album. Thank you guys for watching and listening, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.